How y'all doing? For this video, I'm going to review another one of the Michael Moorcock's famous characters there, outside of Elric, and that is Hawkmoon, also known as the history of the Runestaff. Alright, the setting of this takes place on our world and in some distant future. I'm not described how far in the future it is, but it takes place after the events called the Tragic Millennium, where apparently, however high in technology we have, we're now descended to sort of medieval states. You know, swords and such are used and all that. But also incorporated in is any technology they can find, including flame lances, cannons, that sort of thing, giant ornithopters, and so it has this wonderful, technology in a medieval world sort of thing. A series like this kind of ranks right up there to distant future stories like Jack Vance's Dying Earth, Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun, that sort of thing. Alright, so, what is it about? Well, the main villain of this series is the Granbretan Empire, particularly Baron Meliadus, who serves under his emperor. Now, the Granbretan Empire is what used to be Great Britain. Moorcock deliberately went against the jingoisms of his era, where his home country is now the enemy. The main hero is a German, because this is 1960s, and we still have that sort of perspectives we have of how Germans are after World War II. And of course, I'm digressing a bit. All right, so Granbretan, a sort of a highly dark Baroque area. Particularly the capital Londra, and the people there are known for their maliciousness, but also that they have a tendency to wear masks. The armies of Granbretan are divided in units, each with their own mask that they wear. The mantis-headed warriors, the wolfhounds, the boars, the snakes, that sort of thing. All underneath an emperor Huon. Now, Baron Meliadus, the main villain of this, he goes over to this one principality in what is now southern France, and ruled by a guy named Count Brass. He has a beautiful daughter, Isilda. He goes in there, he tries to seduce Isilda, remove Count Brass, and hopefully take over. Didn't work. And he swears by the Runestaff, a sacred artifact now lost, and will be in connection to Hawkmoon later on, that he will try to succeed. So what does he do? Well, he takes one of his prisoners, and that is Dorian Hawkmoon, after his area has just been taken over by Granbretan, and he's going to use him to go in, take Isilda, and bring her back as sort of leverage against Count Brass. So, what do? Well, they for insurance, to make sure he doesn't betray him, because he's going a long ways away. They put a jewel in his head that's connected to a machine. The machine is pretty much alive. And if they backstab him in any way, which they could tell because they can see from the jewel from his head, but if he backstabs them, they'll turn on the machine and it'll eat his brain. So now Hawkmoon is trying to, release himself from that connection and help Count Brass, out and try to defeat the Granbretan Empire. That's the gist of the series. And there's 4 books. I'll list them afterwards. A Jewel in the Skull, the Mad God's Amulet, the Sword of the Dawn, and the Runestaff. See, in order for Hawkmoon to overcome the Granbretan and Baron Meliadus in particular, he has to go on a series of quests that to retrieve these items. The Mad God's Amulet, which only he can use. The Sword of the Dawn, which, if you know that name from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, they took that sword and put it into the game. In fact, it does exactly what the sword in the series does. It raises some soldiers to fight for him. And of course, the most important one, and that is the Runestaff. And in his journey, of course, he has the Eternal Champion has an Eternal Companion. In this case, is Olodon. And also, there's a servant of the Balance by the name of Warrior Jet in Gold, who comes by from time to time to encourage Hawkmoon of his destiny to retrieve these items that will help him. Doran's reluctant to go with this destiny. He just wants to get back to Count Brass and live his life with Isilda, who he's fallen in love with. Sorry, that sounds like spoilers, but it's pretty obvious at this point. But he eventually has to give in because there's no way he could do it. So, of course, after the history of Runestaff, there's a sequel series, Count Brass. This is Count Brass in this volume. I think it's also known as the Chronicles of Castle Brass. But This one has 3 stories. Count Brass, the champion of Garathorm, and quest for Tanalorn. This is where Corum, after events at history Runestaff, goes across the multiverse and other aspects of the Eternal Champion, including a female one. And it also ties into where he meets Elric in the story of the Sailors of the Seas of Fate. And what happened, it goes from his perspective on how he joined up there and what happened to him afterwards. And, while here he does his job and events in his world, here he goes on a quest that connects him to the entire multiverse. Alright. The setting to me is one of the things that really draws me into this. Just the illustrations, like this one right here. You see fancy setting, but then you incorporate stuff like the technology and all that. It just adds wonderful flavor to that. Of course, this one I have has some great illustrations by James Cawthorn, which I thought were originally drawn for this book. I love this one in particular. This is a great battle from the first book. So the Granbretan, they had mechanical ornithopters. They are also, of course, the good guys' side. They ride on these giant flamingos. You see them in the background here and there. Okay, it may sound silly, but then again, if you were a kid in the 80s and remember the old arcade game Joust, I mean, it's just another version of that. And it's even the silly sounding stuff kind of really fits in. It's one of those things that sounds sillier than what it is. And of course, down below is the battle of Hawkmoon's army allied with Count Brass against the Granbretan Empire. It's of course James Cawthorn did this one. These 2 versions are White Wolf editions of the Eternal Champion. This is Walter Simonson, not Mike McDonald. Walter Simonson did this one. And they did the internal illustrations therein. But they have been like Elric. They have been comic adaptations of the entire series. I don't have them all, unfortunately, but they have done in 4 volumes per book of the entire history of the Runestaff. So, you have the Jewel in the Skull. I got 2 issues of the Mad God's Amulet. I have Sword of the Dawn here. And these are beautifully done. Let's see. These are published by First Comics Limited Series. And let's see, again, this is Hawkmoon himself. Get the glare out of there. This way has Mad God's Amulet. These are beautifully done. I wish they did comics of this level of detail and line work. They don't do that anymore. No one takes the effort. But, sorry for the glare there. But these are fantastic, just wonderfully done in the entire series. And that's just example ones. But what really got me to make this video, that inspired me to make this video here, it's this. I found this in a used bookstore up in Oklahoma City. This is, remember I said that James Cawthorn did the illustrations for this, what they did for, for little side panels there? Well, I thought those were originally for this particular book. No, James Cawthorn did those way back in the 70s when he adapted it into Jewel in the Skull, which I have collected here. He also did Mad God's Amulet. Unfortunately, I didn't go do the other 2 as far as I know. But I've looked online. You can find 1 volume that has the first book of Mad God's Amulet. And it's just wonderful. The whole book is in black and white. And the text is laid out like Prince Valiant would be a good example, where they show the illustration, but you have the narrators talking events of what they're saying. And there's no word balloons or anything, but just look at this. Just wonderful. But, let's see, going into this, see, here's that one picture I showed earlier. Yeah, there it is, back in front of the gates of the King Emperor Huon. But sorry if I got pauses here, but great battle scenes, just wonderful line art from James Cawthorn himself. Hawkmoon on one of the flying flamingos looks cooler, But this covers the entire first book, so if you ever find this one, the second one, go right ahead. That is Hawkmoon itself. I mean, if you I did Elric earlier, and then, I recommend Hawkmoon to anyone, especially those who like those distant future stories like Jack Vance's Dying Earth and Gene Wolfe's Book of New Sun. You love that fantasy adventure where they incorporate technologies into this, give this one a go. And I'll list... Now again, these ones right here that I'm holding, these are from White Wolf Publishing, so they're obviously out of print because White Wolf has ceased to do fiction stories anymore. In fact, they're no longer the working company as once were. They're owned by another publishing company. I'm digressing there, but Tor Books does have the history of the Runestaff, these books in separate volumes, and they're easy to find, the old paperbacks and such. So I'll list the books afterwards, after this video. Go out and find them. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.